As a young movie fanatic back in the 80s, I can confidently say that I watched thousands of films. Only two of those, believe it or not, really resonated with a certain kind of sadness, and I had a difficult time shaking it. Poltergeist was the first for about 100 different reasons, least of which not being what happened to that poor little girl in real life, and Wes Craven's 1986 release, Deadly Friend. Yeah, really. Let's talk about why. We're going to open up with a redneck trying to slide into a van and help himself to a purse just laying on the seat. It was the 80s and people actually did things like that. But a robotic arm comes up from the back of the vehicle and tightly grips this guy by his throat. Now the robot sees an almost a digitized 8-bit vision, which I thought was really cool. But ultimately he decides to let the hillbilly loose, and the mother and son that drive that vehicle rejoin the robot, and away they go. Now it looks to me like this family's relocating because they're driving cross country, and as it turns out, the son is somewhat of a young Einstein named Paul, and he does remarkable work with AI, robots for example, like we saw earlier, and the human brain, which is a deadly combination. It sounds like a mad scientist just waiting to be unleashed onto the world. Now, on the subject of moving, I have relocated myself several times across country, and I have never landed at some digs like these guys wind up at. Great looking house, great looking neighborhood, everything you want to start off an 80s horror film. So I got some serious Short Circuit vibes with this movie because Paul has a lot of affection towards this robot. We find out his name, BB. Even though this robot sounds an awful lot like Stripe from Gremlins. I mean, the way this thing speaks reminds you exactly of that terrifying little lizard that beat the hell out of Gizmo for no good reason. This does lead us to meet Tom, though, who looks to be the neighborhood paperboy. He takes a look at BB when he's on his route, hits a curb, flips over the handlebars like he's a professional wrestler taking a bump for real, crashes the second he sees it. Tom's a good sport. He's happy to see another young man on the block, and they're fast friends. Then Paul meets Sam, or Samantha, who is his next door neighbor and just happens to be played by the scalding hot Christy Swanson. Now Paul reacts like most guys do when Christy shows up, and he starts to see stars. He's got birds singing in his ear. He's very excited that this young lady happens to be living just a few feet away from him. He looks her up and down. I'm not going to say why. We won't speculate here. But he does notice a nasty bruise on her left arm. And the plot thickens. Tom's excited to give Paul a tour of the neighborhood. And of course they have to stop by the most infamous house on the block, belonging to one Elvira Parker. Now for those of you wondering, that Elvira? No, definitely not that Elvira. We're talking about Mama Fratelli of the Goonies fame. Great film. Wretched bad guy. Anything she's in, she's got a scowl on her face and evil in her heart, and it's no different here because she's very protective of her property, of her house. She's got a fence, she's got a deadbolt, she's got all sorts of implements in place to make sure nobody comes to see her because she doesn't want anybody visiting her. And that shotgun that she totes as soon as she sees another living soul will ensure that that doesn't happen. It wouldn't be an 80s horror film without a few stereotypes, and we do get a gang on dirt bikes, and they pull up to bully Tom and Paul, as well as kind of rough up BB a little bit as well. The robot takes umbrage, though, with Paul getting chucked up against a dumpster, and this robot decides to clamp down on the main bully's jewels and will not let go until Paul insists he's had enough. This tells us, obviously, one, don't mess with BB because BB loves Paul, and two, we're going to run into this bad guy again down the line, inevitably. A surprise visit from Sam a little bit later on, though, leaves Paul love-struck. I mean, as an 80s kid growing up, that's what you wanted. You wanted to live next door to a cute girl, and you wanted her to come hang out with you. And that's exactly what happens here, even though we do find out why there's bruises on Sam's arm, because her dad comes over, not happy at all with the midnight visit, decides he's going to aggressively bring Sam back to their house. Now, this is where we get a solid reminder that this is a Wes Craven film, because the nightmare scene that happens next is something ripped straight out of a Robert Englund playbook. I mean, this is a very scary scene where Sam is awakened by her sweating father, climbing in bed with her, very awkward. She stabs the guy, blood spewing everywhere. He's cackling. It looks like it's plucked from Elm Street. It's that scary. Really well done, and it really reinforces just how bad of a person her dad is. Now, those three kids on the block, Paul, Sam, Tom, they're all having a great time with each other. They're all enjoying each other's company. Everything seems fine. They're teaching BB basketball, but the little robot doesn't know his own strength, winds up chucking the ball over into Elvira's yard. They go to look at it, try to maybe get it back. They're talking about whether or not they should have BB pick the lock, and then Elvira shows up with her shotgun, decides she's going to keep the basketball. This pisses BB off to no end, because we see that he gets that predator sort of thermal heat vision when he's angry. And the movie does a really good job here of establishing the first three people that are going to be on the chopping block if this robot decides to go haywire. And let's face facts, most robots in these movies go haywire. Halloween rolls around, and who doesn't love Halloween in a horror film? And the trio's at it again. They're out in the neighborhood. They're having a good time. They've all got their costumes on. They're enjoying Halloween. And they decide they want to play a prank on Elvira, and they want to pick the lock. Sam decides she's going to be the sacrificial lamb, goes up there, alarms go haywire. All the kids hide, but BB winds up rolling up, and he is taken out by three well-placed shotgun blasts from this absolutely pissed off old lady. First domino to fall in this movie, and Paul is devastated. And we go from one holiday to the next, because when we find ourselves at Thanksgiving, Sam is over at Paul's house eating dinner with Paul and his mother. Now, Sam loves being over there. She's very taken with Paul, and Paul's mom is just super sweet to her. And Anne Toomey plays that role of Paul's mother. She's fantastic in this movie. You believe she's a mom. She's very caring. She's very concerned. And she's very maternal towards Sam as well, because she sees what we see. She's constantly showing up with bruises and bloody noses, and she's not happy about that because this is a really sweet girl. Paul obviously has feelings for Sam, and Sam seems to be getting there. They end the night with a kiss before Sam sneaks back next door, hoping like hell her father is still passed out drunk. Kristy Swanson here does a great job conveying how terrified she is of her own house. From the minute she walks through that front door and notices that her dad isn't sleeping on that couch, she knows he's somewhere. His car's out front. He's somewhere in that house. And the fact that she's tiptoeing around there, looking around corners like she's seriously trying to sidestep a boogeyman in her own home, it really tells you what kind of relationship these two have. Now, eventually, she winds up backing right into him upstairs. He slaps her around. It's very brutal to watch, and then he winds up knocking her down the stairs. Now, she starts to twitch at the bottom of the stairs, and the dad's convinced, you're putting on an act, get up, knock it off. But no, this ultimately is what kills Sam in this movie. So this bothered me as a kid for a few different reasons, part of which was the abuse from her dad, which I knew something about as a kid. And then some of it had to be that I was just really happy to see her enjoying her time with Paul and Paul's mom and Tom and BB, because you just knew with her having those bruises and her having those kind of injuries that life for her in that house was just brutal. It was hell. And you got to see her start to enjoy things a little bit more. And 30 minutes into the movie and she's gone. And it was probably partially because it's Kristy Swanson too. And how dare he? As a kid, that really, really resonated with me. It really bothered me because you're supposed to be protected by your parents. And I was pretty naive as a kid, but that's the cardinal thing. Your folks are there to look after you. And this dude was awful to this girl. Paul wasn't accepting of this, though. He just wasn't. He wasn't having it. It must have been one hell of a kiss, because he winds up dragging Tom into his plot to combine his technology for BB that's been destroyed, essentially the brain of the robot, and he wants to put that together with Sam's dead body. Now, I have people that I've known for decades, and if they'd have asked me, I'd have politely passed on a mission like this and then got them counseling. This Tom has known Paul for a few weeks, and he's like, yeah, I got time. Paper route's over, let's get to it. And the crazy thing is, it all ends up working, but the death count begins from that moment on, because it was satisfying seeing the dad get it. He winds up getting toasted like a marshmallow, which was funny. I enjoyed it. He deserved it, and you know what? I root against bad guys. The basketball kill of Mama Fratelli was something well worth seeing. Goofy, kind of, it's hard to believe that was a human head, but it was shock, and it was the 80s, and you saw it and your jaw dropped, so it worked. Tom, though, once these bodies start piling up, he's not on board with this anymore, and he threatens to go to the police, which causes the reincarnated Sam to attack him. This got to the point where it just started to feel like a monster movie, because Tom and Paul go upstairs to the attic to check in on her. And this is when she has nowhere else to go. They're basically keeping her locked in an attic. Paul is basically locking her in an attic, and she's in a shadowed corner of the attic. And once she sees Paul and Tom, she darts across to the next shadowed corner of the attic. Tom is startled and terrified. It gets to a point where she's being chased through town square by the police, and it just feels like Frankenstein. So Wes Craven does a really good job here. I thought this was a cool concept. I thought the way he combined all these different elements. I mean, it's a little bit of comedy in this movie. Obviously, the romance between Sam and Paul. And then you've got the creature effect of the whole thing. On top of combining technology with... I mean, I just thought it was really well done. We do get to a point, though, where Paul is comforting Sam in their shed at Paul's home. She's just been chased. She's startled. It's still Sam combined with BB. And those two characters, those two entities, adore Paul. So that 8-bit vision that BB had all throughout the course of the movie, Sam kind of has it now. She's had it this whole time ever since Paul gave her that chip. And it's starting to fizzle out, and then she can start to see him in her real vision, with her real eyesight. And she even starts to use words, which she wasn't using once she got that implant, and she calls out for Paul. It's all very, very sad, because it makes you think that, you know, this girl is popping back and forth between cyborg or robot and human. She was killed too soon, and she didn't really have a say in what these guys did to her, and now she's going through all this. She's hurt these people. Is this really what she would have wanted for herself? And as good as it was to have Christy Swanson back on our screen, it really made you wonder, was this all worth it? Here she is. She's got a dozen cops pointing guns at her for all these things she did, because this love-struck kid put a stem and a computer chip into her brain. It just wasn't fair. It wasn't fair. It was a real bummer. The movie should have ended 5 minutes sooner than it did. I don't know that we needed that last jump scare, but I did like the idea that Paul got a little bit of comeuppance for him playing mad scientist in this movie. I didn't really like the Paul character. I thought he was very bland. I feel like they wanted Charlie Brewster from Fright Night. They wanted Billy Peltzer from Gremlins. And this is what they got, sort of the Temu version of that. I just wasn't a fan of this kid. 7 out of 10. This movie ages gracefully. It's a lot of a nostalgia score for me, but I loved it. Plus, it's a Wes Craven tale, and we love that man here. This is Aging Gracefully. I'm Matthew Essex. Let me know what you thought of this movie. Subscribe if you like what we do. See y'all on the other side.